Welcome back, everyone. At this time, we'll have Rita Smith come up and give our guests an introduction.
Good afternoon, everyone. We have one guest today. Please stand so we could give you a warm Kiwanis welcome. Kathleen Kramer, guest of Carol Whitmore. Thank you for attending today and welcome.
We'll have Mike Baer with any community service announcements.
Thanks, Neil. And thanks everybody out there for the kind words this last week for our family. We are going to, on the 14th of October, I put on your tables this flyer right here for the sound the alarm with the Red Cross. So we're partnering up to install some smoke detectors at a trailer park here in Bradenton that really has the need for it. We need a minimum of 20. I'd like to get 20 volunteers, a minimum of 14, or we'll have to cancel the event. That has to happen by October 1st. So if you would, it's going to be in the morning from 9:45 to 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but they're going to have the Red Cross, who's going to be talking to us in a couple of weeks. They're going to provide all the materials, show us how to do it, and we'll go around and really be able to make a difference and save a lot of people's, be in better shape to save people's lives if there's a fire. So I'll ask you to do that. And we've got other events coming up later on, but we won't go into it now because it's still a couple months out. Thank you very much. Thanks, Neil.
Yep. All right, club board meeting. Our last board meeting of the fiscal year is tomorrow. It'll be at noon at facilities. So if board members and committee members would like to be there, please come and enjoy it. And those that are coming on to the board are more than welcome. Main topic of conversation probably will be our transition. Not many other committee reports out there, so we'll be talking primarily about transition tomorrow. At this time, we're going to introduce our program. We have two speakers today, or do we have one? Two. All right. They're going to talk about Hope Village. Carol Whitmore, everybody knows, been a commissioner, county level, mayor down out in the island, so very well known. Steve Wilson, Hideaway Storage, been working on some projects here with helping solve the temporary housing program out there. So without further ado, please come forward and we'll hear a great program today.
I want to thank you all very much for inviting Carol and me to your meeting. My membership in the Bradenton Kiwanis Club has been one of the huge highlights of my time here in Bradenton. Dan McClure invited me to my first Kiwanis meeting, I think in the 1970s, late 70s, and I was a Kiwanian for about 30-some years. I can't claim I was a very good Kiwanian, but I was a Kiwanian at least. Today, Carol and I want to talk to you about something that Kiwanians know a lot about, and that's changing lives. Carol and I want to talk to you about changing the lives of many low-income mothers and fathers in our community. Our focus is primarily on single moms and who are threatened with homelessness. You know, there are a lot of young ladies who are highly capable of doing really good things in our community. They ended up with a family earlier than they got their education completed. So they end up being trapped in a situation where they are in a low-paying job with high demands on from their family, from their children. And they're trapped. It's not a good situation. In fact, for many of these ladies, it's a no-win type of thing. However, Before I get into that any more deeply, let me first discuss some government programs supported by our tax dollars as they relate to these low-income families. A single mother with 2 small children can receive up to maybe $4,000 in food stamps a year. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less. That same mom can get as much as $12,000 a year in subsidy on their daycare program. So here, these 2 welfare programs alone can add up to $14,000, $16,000 that comes from your taxes and my taxes here. And then there are also medical programs, rent subsidies, and multiple other welfare programs. You get the idea. Low-income people end up costing you and me a lot of tax dollars. Now, I am not complaining about this. They need help. A lot of help, but the government would not be spending as much money on these families if they would do more to help get them out of poverty. The problem is that governments provide a lot of handouts, but very, very few hands up. It's amazing how few paths there are out of poverty for moms and dads that are at the bottom of the income spectrum. This is especially true for low-income single moms. Single moms make up 95% of single-parent families. So that's why our focus, and I speak so much in terms of single moms. This is a human tragedy that we are not helping get people out of poverty. Mostly what I see are just these handouts. It's a human tragedy on a grand scale, and it's a human tragedy piled on top of bad economics. If we help people get out of poverty, we can save a lot of money on our welfare payments and also be putting more money into the government through increased taxes from them having better jobs. That's good economics. And that's why Carol and I are here. We want to share a proven approach to helping moms and dads get out of poverty who are threatened with homelessness. I am on the board of Help to Home, Inc. This is a 501c3 nonprofit. Help to Home has been helping young mothers with children for years. It has an 86% success rate in terms of after 2 years of getting our tenants moved into independent housing of one type or another when they leave our units. The problem is we only have 4 housing units now, but Help to Home is now expanding what it has been doing successfully for 8 years. We're building Hope Village right down on 30th Avenue, about 2 miles from here. Hope Village will have 53 duplex units for moms and dads with kids who are homeless or threatened by homelessness. My hope today is that when you walk out of here, you will know that each family who will be living in Hope Village will have 1, safe and affordable housing. Number 2, they will have a structured coaching and guidance program to help them with basic family finances related to savings and budgeting. And number 3, they will have acquired or improved job skills by the time they leave our village in 2 years. This will not be easy or pain-free for many of these residents. Careful screening will be done prior to admission so that we ensure that only parents with the grit and determination to change their lives are admitted. And that's not all of these families that are hurting, but there are a lot out there that if they have the opportunity can improve themselves. Let me give you just one example. There's a lady, a young mother, her child is under a year old, is in one of our units now. This is an example of the grit that people can have. She lives over by the ballpark. She walks all the way to her job in Palmetto, in the middle part of Palmetto. every morning, and then she turns around and walks home every night because she doesn't have any transportation. That's the grit we're looking for. Hope Village is being built without any government funds and without borrowing any money. We are relying on private donors to make this a reality. Now, with that introduction, I want to let Carol give us some details on how Hope Village will be functioning. Carol?
Thank you. Hello, fellow Kiwanians. For those of you that know me, you know that I must have this written in front of me because I will totally go off script. George Cruz can probably verify that. I want to thank Steve and how many of you, since over the past year, how many of you heard of Help to Home? Now, when I would have come here 6 or 7 or 8 months ago, you probably wouldn't have. So we have really been in a full-blown campaign mode to get this project started. I don't know if many of you knew, but I grew up homeless at the age of 15. So no such programs ever existed in 1970, and I survived by the kindness of others and the grit that I had to make my life and my actions in my community count. My years of public service and nursing helped me in my community to do what I could do to help others when I was young that I didn't have the opportunity to do. After many years, as you know, on the County Commission and other offices, seeing us talk about a solution with no action has been very frustrating, and I think that's the nurse in me. I want to get the problem solved. I was relieved that Help to Home approached me to come work with them to expand the current program to a larger scale. Maybe this is what I was always meant to do for our community. Go figure. You build housing with a strong program for threatened homelessness for those that have the grit to make something of themselves with no government funding or assistance or debt. Now, who ever heard of that? So when I heard about this program, I had to learn more. And of course, I knew that this is where I needed to be. Yes, this organization had the data to show me that, but before I accepted the position, that actually, this is actually what's happened, as you know, with the 86% graduation rate. And so I was hired as the development administrator. No waiting for the government or having to comply with massive reporting to agencies and actually use the monies for the rent to go back into the project. To be clear, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what the rules are with this program, and that's why it's not meant for everybody. The family or a single parent must have minor children to be in this program. The parent must be employed and sign a contract to follow strict program rules with very low rents for up to 2 years. That's the max. The clients must have a savings account and a reserve for future affordable housing in the future. The client must have a life coach or case manager, whichever you'd like to call them, and a financial counselor, and we go to their homes every month and we go over their income and expenses to start the process of breaking the cycle that if you have a dime in your pocket, we're going to spend it. The first year, this is the most important because this starts breaking your cycle of generational poverty. You start learning how to save money, and actually that's why we've been so successful. This is the big one. When I first found out about this program, I thought, how is this going to happen? There's no visitors allowed to spend the night. And actually with an 86% graduation rate, and if you were somebody like me that needed to keep a roof over their head, you would do that. So we are very successful with that, believe it or not. And they have to agree to assistance to upscale their profession, so maybe instead of having 2 or 3 jobs, you only have 1 job, so you can be with your family to learn those family skills. You have to agree to work with agencies in Manatee County for education and assistance. We use our community services, no duplication. We use, and in my personal experience, I would have done anything for help. This program, along with a roof over their head as a bonus to get them out of the cycle of borderline or actual homelessness, is what is missing. We've gone all over and talked to people throughout the state. Nobody had ever heard of anything like this. There's 2 or 3 other organizations in the state. They are faith-based. This organization is not. The program feels that if you don't have the will or the grit to want to do better for your children and yourself, this program will not be for you, and it's not going to be for everybody. So if you want to be part of the solution, you can call Steve or myself at any time, and we'll be glad to meet with you or any other organization you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. We could go on and on about the details. Let me give you a little snapshot on where we stand right now. Altogether, this project, to get it built, is going to cost about $7.7 million, 7.5. We have raised a little bit over $3 million so far. We need about $3.5 million to begin phase one, which is 16 housing units, plus the community building, plus all the site work. I think we'll have that in hand by the time fall is over and winter comes. Our permits, both the architectural and the civil permits, are being submitted within the next couple of weeks. We should have all of our permits approved. If the county will fast track some of them, we'll have them approved by the end of November. There. We're going to continue our fundraising because once we get phase one going, that's just the start. We're still going to need even more money for phase two. But we have enough money we believe, to get things going. So we're quite pleased with where we're going. I was really surprised to see how many of you raised your hands when Carol said, who's heard about Hope Village? It seems like we've done a pretty good job of talking it up one way or another. Well, with those comments on where we stand, I think Carol and I would like to open it up for any questions. We've got plenty of time. Oh my goodness gracious. We, having been a Kiwanian for a long time, I know that you can get kicked off of here very quickly at the wrong time. So we want to honor your time, but we are available for questions now or questions later after the meeting's over. So. Over here. Yes, ma'am.
Hi there. I actually work for Habitat for Humanity, and we have talked with you guys about doing a memorandum of understanding so that some of your people can feed into us. I just want to emphasize, for those who don't know, Habitat has struggled for years with the fact that this is basically transitional housing.
Exactly.
And with wraparound care, and those two things are so vital to get a family prepared to have a home and become responsible citizens and lift them up out of poverty. So I'm really grateful that you guys are moving forward with this, and we definitely need to talk some more because we have not yet done the MOU.
Well, we were looking forward to that MOU with you. We have one with Goodwill, Turning Points, and we have others. This is going to be a cooperative. This is going to impact the entire community. This just isn't one little agency deal. We're going to, in many ways, going to really impact the entire community. Let me just follow up on your comment. One other thing that I've learned. You know, I grew up in sort of the standard suburban school districts, went to a public university, never really got down into the nitty-gritty, except as a newspaper reporter, I was in some pretty gritty places, but I didn't live in them. You know, what I have learned from working with Help to Home is there are a lot of people out there. They just don't know how to live. They don't know how to pay things. They don't know what to pay. They don't think. Carol alluded to this. Let me give you an example. There's a lady, I'll call her Susie. It's not Susie. She's one of our tenants. She has gotten, Kathleen's organization, Turning Points, has helped pay her rent for a while. And she is doing really, she's a star with us. But Carol, and I heard her tell us this, she had an old Toyota. Now, an old Toyota, really old Toyota's got to be 50 years old to be really old, as good as they are. Excuse me, General Motors and all. But anyway, she told us she went down to the Toyota dealership. She said, well, I got some money in my savings account. I'm going to go down there and I'm going to buy myself a new car. She didn't think about saving money. If she got money, you spend it. That's the logic she had been in forever. Well, she got down there and she got a ready car, and she called her life coach and said, I'm at the Toyota dealership. I'm going to buy myself a new car or something like that. And the lady who was her life coach said, flee. just flee that place. Well, Susie continues to have her old 20-year-old Toyota, but it's got air conditioning, and it goes from A to B, and she's got a bank account with a lot of thousands of dollars
Yeah.
in it. And she's going to have a new life. Not just because of us, but we played a large part of that. And we're looking forward to doing that more and more. Questions?
And she was living in Salvation Army and had 3 kids. And she was literally living with them and then came to us. So we had to teach her how to break that cycle of quit. You know, you got to be responsible. You got 3 kids. And now you got a roof over your head. Don't lose that opportunity.
But these are things that are very natural to us. They are not so natural to a large segment of the population. And much of this population is it's generational poverty. It's not just, yes, some of the cases, I made a mistake, I got messed up, I burnt my bridges with my family, but I know how to do things, I just need a hand. A lot of it, they've been this way for generations. And so there's a lot of times that you really have to break, it's not even breaking bad habits, it's just teaching how to live. Questions?
Kelly.
It's not a question. I was just going to tell you, I'm really looking forward to you having more homes online, because I was going to say, we had a client who was in our shelter program. She had completed all of her case management and was looking for a place, and couldn't find anything affordable until she learned about you. And I know she's been in there for a little over a year now. Every progress report I've heard is very positive.
Well, I think I know who you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, the same woman who wanted to buy the Toyota.
Yeah, same one. Well, let me give you one example. I was given a book to read by Margie Genter, who some of you know, who's at the executive with Goodwill. This was a book, basically, I forget what the title was, but what it boiled down to was people who don't have any money think different than you and I. That was the idea behind it. And they don't accumulate money, whether it's for down payments on rent or anything, because the minute they get any money, many of them, they want to spend that money or give it to somebody else as sort of insurance policy that when they get in trouble, that person will help them out. So there's never any capital accumulation. Capital accumulation is a fancy term for somebody who's trying to get just first and last together. But that sort of thing, there's just a lot of things that have to change.
Henry.
I don't really like how they work. Do you have that program set up at Kickstarter and GoFundMe.com and Zelle? You have all those set up?
The GoFundMe accounts? Is that what you're talking about?
I don't know.
No.
Not yet.
They need to.
We will
yeah.
be, we will be.
Yeah.
But we've been focused on some other things, just haven't gotten it done. We have a very unusual board. It's a high working board, but we don't have a lot of staff so far.
Yeah.
Dave?
In your fundraising efforts, have you created naming opportunities?
Absolutely. What name do you want, Dave? Now, it could be the Bassett Villa. It could be the Bassett Community Building. It could be Bassett Avenue or whatever. Well, yes, we have those
Or
options.
the playground. I do have to say.
The playground, yes, it
Yeah.
could be the Bassett Playground, too.
Steve is very humble, and what actually made me come to this organization too, and he wouldn't tell anybody. We would go out and talk to, Parker, Bishop Parker Foundation and stuff, and I said, Steve donated $1.5 million of his own money to start this. And, that means a lot when a board member will put this in to show that he really believes in this. So I said, we have to use that, because now Steve will walk in, when he meets with you, Mr. Bassett, he'll say, I put $1 million in, will you match it? He says it all the time now.
Well, I wish I'd asked you not to say that, but anyway, since it's out. The reason Maureen and I did that was because we see the potential of this program. We've been looking for something to do I've been on the board for a number of years, so this didn't happen instantly. But there are very few programs to really help people get out of poverty. There's a lot of people that will help you. You know, they'll get you a roof over your head. But a roof over your head is better than not having a roof over your head. Don't get me wrong. But what really counts is when you get somebody with a roof over their head and you're not subsidizing that roof. They're paying for it themselves, for their own good, for their children's good, everybody's good. We saw that happening here. We didn't see any place else. Yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna, are you guys still, I know, actually, our former Family Services Director worked with you and identified what I think you're using, which is the 7-step Bridge to Empowerment program as the basis. It addresses 7 different areas, because it's not just one, it's not just housing, it's not just the job, it's not education, it's a whole bunch of stuff, you know, healthcare. There's 7, is that what you're using now?
April, our case manager, she's familiar with it, and she is our single case manager that's probably, ask Kathleen, when I work at Turning Points and volunteer, I give my lunch to them, so I'm not a good person to do this job. But April, she does follow that, and she's very familiar with it, and she runs a very tight ship. She has heart-to-heart talks with these families when they start going off stray. If you don't have a job, we just had to ask a lady to leave. She had a baby, but she was staying at home, sleeping on her couch all day. So April gives her all these applications. Here, go apply for a job. You have to have a job in a week or you're gone. She did. She's working at one of the restaurants on Manatee Avenue. Culliver's, okay. So, I mean, we are very, very hands-on strict. That's why this won't work for everybody. One lady said she was fine, and all of a sudden she goes, I don't want you looking at my checking account anymore. And we said, okay, you have 2 weeks to show us, because this is part of the program that you signed up. And that's why this is good, because it's by the private sector. If we were government funded, you know, we'd have all these hurdles. We said, this is going to look bad on your credit score, and she wouldn't give it, and she left, and she had 4 children. So anyway, again, this is for the ones that really want to try to make something of their lives. And, you know, there are people out there, look at me, you know, my family, part of my family turned out one way and I turned out this way. But you got to have the grit to do better for yourself. And this is I'm so blessed that I got asked to work for this organization.
John.
So you mentioned staff earlier, and you're going to get this place built for the money that you're raising now. What kind of operating budget are you going to need to work on?
We have an operating budget. The number escapes me right now, but it shows a 19% operating margin when we have all 53 of the units, and I think it's either 900 or 9.25 a month. Now that's a little rough and a little unrealistic, John. We're going to need more operating funds, because we're going to have to hire, probably when we have 53, a couple of more professionals that are tough professionals. We have any number of, particularly ladies, that would love to volunteer to be a life coach, you know, to check up, talk, encourage, all that. But we need a couple more. So our budget is, in a sense, unrealistic, but it was established a little while ago it'll get the job done. I wanted to show that we aren't going to fill this thing up and then go broke on that. But to really do the job, we're going to have to establish an ongoing operating budget that is going to require some degree of fundraising. I'm thinking probably $200,000 to $300,000 a year will probably be more than enough for the fundraising. Right now, we're in the capital campaign. We're transitioning from the capital to the operating, and there'll be a sort of a little bumpy transition in there. But there's an awful lot of churches, other places that would want to make a donation to scholarships. We're going to need a lot of money for scholarships. I didn't even mention that. Not only the staff, but a lot of these ladies are going to have to quit, not all, maybe not even a majority, they want to quit flipping burgers and go to Manatee Tech or someplace else to get upskilled. Well, they're still going to have to pay us our rent. They're still going to have to buy gasoline. They're still going to have to buy groceries. The way to do that is with stipends provided through Help to Home, unless other people step up. It may be that other organizations will step up and specifically sponsor. We haven't gotten there yet. But it's not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things. Yeah. Andy?
Given you got 4 units now, what is your wait list for those units you have right now?
I don't know. We don't actually have a great wait list because when a unit becomes open, we have to interview any number of people before we get one that we're satisfied with. So we don't keep a long wait list, but because it could be a year, 2 years before we have another opening with the ones we have now. Speaking of wait lists, though, the minute anyone becomes a member, like the lady you're talking about there, they are put on the wait list or 5 or 6 other apartment projects. What's the word I'm looking?
Affordable housing.
For affordable housing wait list, so that maybe they even get into those things are normally a couple years on these affordable housing wait lists here. So we don't have a wait list per se. We can fill the minute we have an opening. I'm getting calls on my office phone from people who say, I was told by thus and so to call you, and Carol probably gets it, we all get it. The demand is just huge.
Mark Vengroff, I saw him at the Chamber Retreat this weekend. He has a 2-year wait list, and you know how many units he has. So this is kind of like what was said. This is a transitional merger. This is starting, we're homeless, we're getting them stable into affordable housing. So this is the step that we've talked about in the future, and hopefully the county commission and I don't know what they're going to be doing with a lot of their stuff, but we're trying to, we're in that gap where nobody fits. Nobody fits. You got to have first and last just to even move into our facility. Sometimes we can find you funding, sometimes we can't. Kathleen?
You jokingly said 3,000 is the wait list, but I mean, at Turning Points last year, we took just over 6,000 applications for rental assistance. So that tells you what it looks like in a community with people and those were people who either most of them had housing, something happened in their lives and they needed some coverage for a month or two. Some of them had no housing, but I mean 6,000 applications.
In Habitat, we have a waiting list, well, I call it a waiting list, it's not really. It's a people who we know are pre-qualified, but haven't been assigned to a house of more than 80 people, and we're taking 80 to 90 phone calls a month for people that want to buy a house through us. So it's off the charts.
I guess we are going to get ready to wrap up, but I did want to say I work at Turning Points on Mondays, and for those 4 hours, I probably pass out 30 to 40 applications for rental assistance, and that they have to go home, fill it out, bring all their documentation. I never know what happens because I know there's no place for them to go, but we do have that system. On behalf of myself, I want to thank everybody for inviting us, and I'm sure Steve would agree also that we agree for you listening. If you have anybody that's interested in helping us with our program, please feel free to give Steve a call or myself. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Stay up here. All right, our Bradenton Kiwanis tradition of passing out the golden ruler to Steve and to Carol to measure the future success of Hope Village and Help to Home.
Thank you.
Over here.
Hey, Lemoyne.
Wait a minute. Carol, you got to know.
Oh. I thought we were going by height. Oh, now we are. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Yep. All right, everybody. Let's keep pushing book sales. We've got Janine is available to order. Volume 2 will be here in a little over a month. So if you want to go ahead and get your set ordered, please reach out to Janine. She'll be glad to help you. On October 3rd, Andy gets to start his year with Ashley Moody as the Attorney General. We will have this place packed. So we're expecting already over 100 guests before any of you say anything of who you might be bringing. So if you are planning on bringing a guest, we probably need to know next week. Leave a guest name or a number with membership as you check in, so that way we make sure we have enough food to cover everybody who will be here. The whole place will be open for this event, and depending on the size, we might have the buffet line out like we do for other big events, so we look forward to that. Next week, I close my reign of terror. We will be recognizing members, giving out some year-end awards, and then we will also have Ken Christie swearing in our new officers and directors. So, and then Andy will give us a little bit about what he plans to do for this next year. I've had a great deal of fun and hope to have one more week of that coming up. So thank you all and have a great week. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.